Robb Stark's journey in Game of Thrones was to gain northern independence. But what if he wanted to take the Iron Throne? Is there a path for the King of the North to become king of the Seven Kingdoms?
I think there is a path. I think there is a shiny golden path that our boy Robb could take to turn his eyes south and sit on his favorite hilt. We got this video idea from the Fandom. They're a good YouTube channel that covers Song of Ice and Fire content as well, so go check out their video, you idiots. But unlike in their video where they started Robb's divergence toward accomplishing his own personal goal of an independent North and starting that out at the beginning of his journey, we're going to be starting at the point where Robb betrayed his oath to Walder Frey, the most honorable lord in the Seven Kingdoms. And again, like you said earlier, Don Boy, in our video, his goal is to sit the Iron Throne, not just have an independent North.
Yeah, so he basically gets the most transcendent post-nut clarity of all time, right?
Oh, dude, post-nut warfare, galaxy brain unlocked. He can use active camo whenever he wants.
He either takes the maidenhead of Jane Westerling or Talisa in the TV show. And at this point, this is where we're starting. This is the other rule we want to set up right away. We're basically taking control here. This is the golden path, but everybody else around him has to be acting with their own self-interest and believable based on those character traits, right? But after this post-nut clarity Robb gets, he has to, at this point, if he wants to take the Iron Throne, he has to go back to Rosalind Frey. He has to marry her right then and there. Just be like, okay, you know what? I got my nut. Now it's time to do the duty. And I always hated the idea that Robb was so honorable by marrying the girl he stole her virginity from. Dude, that's not honorable.
So cringe,
What's
dude.
honorable is living up to the word of another lord you swore some oath to somewhat, right? Maybe, I don't know if it's an oath, but an agreement at least, right?
No, absolutely. I would say so. It was like a treaty. It was basically a treaty in wartime. Like, I'll do this, you do this. Like, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. That is way more honorable to honor his pact with Walder Frey than to marry some random girl. I mean, we know, I understand the Starks are all honorable or whatever, but I mean, back in Winterfell, wasn't Robb having sex with Roz as well, or was it just Theon? You know, I had the impression that he was not a virgin going into Jane Westerling / Talisa. I don't think that was the first he's ever had. So why isn't he marrying any of these other girls that he had sex with in the past either?
Well, it's
I don't
probably
know.
because
I understand you said the maidenhead thing.
Yeah, it's a
but
maidenhead thing,
what?
right? It's the virginity, the V card. He's like, oh, because I took her V card, it means
Yeah,
something. Versus
even
Roz,
so.
who's, you know, at least 100,000 miles are on that used model.
Oh, dude, absolutely. And I wouldn't touch her with a 100,000-mile pole either. She's like the Grinch to me, man. Dirty. Shame, shame, shame. But yeah, Rosalind Frey, dude, he can have all the passionate, dutiful smashing he wants, you know, with her. Just keep it in your pants for a little bit longer, Robb. Yeah, he needs to shape up. But in our situation here, yes, the first thing that's going to happen is he's going to immediately marry Rosalind Frey and keep this pact together with the Freys. And I've heard other people talk about this before, and they think that Walder Frey was going to betray Robb no matter what, but I think that's so wrong. I think that's because he has a very abrasive attitude. They portray him with a very abrasive personality, and because of that, they just assume that he's a villain through and through and would always betray. I don't think so whatsoever. I think he definitely had incentive on both sides, and he's trigger happy. You know, I'm betraying whoever needs to be betrayed at any given time, but I think there would still need to be a reason. He's sworn to the North, to the Riverlands. He's not going to betray Robb if he gets the marriage pact to go through. He's just not.
Yeah, I mean, Walder Frey, we're a very pro-Walder Frey channel here, our Hilts hurt, right?
Misunderstood guy.
Yeah, he has Robb by the balls. That's the whole reason why he decides to make this negotiation like as difficult as possible for Robb to come south to get the, you know, passage through the Twins. But I think Walder Frey, and he lost like a bunch of men fighting for Robb. He wasn't like Roose Bolton, who was keeping his men in the rear, or at least letting a lot of the Stark loyalists take the vanguard in conflicts and like really weeding out loyalists within the northern forces. Walder Frey was not doing anything like that. If anything, you can argue that the Boltons or Roose is kind of looking for his way out. But even that, I don't know at this point if Robb looks like he's on a winning side and he doesn't show any signs of total implosion, that Roose looks for his way out. Because at this point, so if Walder Frey gets this marriage pact, and it's official, and I think Robb's golden path forward again is he marries her and he also keeps her with him. So there's no like Frey situation like they did with Edmure Tully, right? Where they have Rosalind marry, impregnate her, then leave her in safekeeping while Edmure Tully is captured. Because at least Walder Frey would have the play still in his hand that, hey, Rosalind's pregnant with Robb's kid. If it's a boy, then I have the heir of Winterfell in the Twins, and then I can actually negotiate with Tywin still. So he has to keep Rosalind with him.
Yep, absolutely. And, you know, speaking of keeping women or getting rid of women, controlling women's bodies, let's just say, I think he would send Catelyn, the Karen of the North, off to Seaguard because
Yes.
he was already planning on sending her to Seaguard in the series, in the main series, but the Red Wedding and everything happened prior to that, so he was never able to go through with it. They're a good ally, right? There's no reason to assume he's going to change his mind at this point, and we can all agree that having Catelyn away from Robb is definitely a good thing in this wartime. She has proven to be nothing but a problem, except for, ironically, the one time when it mattered most, when Catelyn was trying to tell Robb to stay true to your oath. So I guess in this situation, that's basically what we're having Robb do, is just listen to Catelyn for that one moment, and then he says, all right, Mom, I'm listening to you. Now get the hell out of here. Get off to Seaguard.
Catelyn, though, at the same time in which Robb comes back from hearing the horrible news of Bran and Rickon dying up in Winterfell, while Robb is busting a nut, Catelyn's making the worst decision ever by letting Jaime go free, right? So that still happens. Catelyn lets Jaime go free, which then results in the Card Starks getting pissed off. So my initial thought in this is that Robb says, hey, Card Starks, you're right. I'm sending my mother off. She's going to be punished. She's going to be spanked really hard. Card Starks, you're going to go get Jaime Lannister, hunt him down, and kill him if you can. And if he sends them out to do that mission, I think Rickard, though pissed off, understands that his mother is just an idiot and that he can go get his revenge now. He has a taste for Lannister blood, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're right. And I think that you're right about this too. I was going to say the exact same thing. And depending on the timeline of all this, how quick it ends up happening, Jaime could have lost his hand at this point too, so he'd be easy pickings, man. Just chop the head off and be done. Send it to Tywin. You know what I mean? It'd be a big move. And the one thing that sucks about that is that he's kind of losing his bargaining chip for Sansa, who is still down in King's Landing. And I think maybe they think that Arya's still down there too right now, which does suck for sure. But again, it's like kind of, what am I supposed to do here? He's already lost so much. He's lost Bran, he's lost Rickon. I could kind of see Robb kind of going renegade, you know what I mean? And just be like, screw all this, man. I got to get the job done. And speaking of Robb getting the job done, again, I don't think there's any reason to think that this would change. Even though the Boltons have retaken Winterfell on behalf of the Starks, quote unquote, even though they knew the betrayal was going to happen or whatever, I still think they would do that just in case the Red Wedding maybe thing could come through. Because again, Ramsay was already in progress of doing this before Robb broke his oath to Rosalind Frey. So I think Robb takes the northern forces, or at least part of them, and goes back up and makes sure that Winterfell is secure. And I definitely think, too, one way or another, he either sends himself or people over to the Iron Islands and basically give Balon Greyjoy the ultimate ALS ice bucket challenge. You know what I'm saying? About 100 miles off the coast of Pike. Like, tie an anchor to that bad boy and let him sink. Or unless, see, this is the other thing, too. It's also possible, depending on how long it takes to travel up there, that Euron would already be back by now. Because I think the Euron thing happens like 6 months after Balon does his whole bullshit in the north. So regardless, Balon's going to die, right?
Yeah, Balon has to die. And something me and you speak about sometimes is if for some reason Robb Stark, Balon, or Joffrey lives, it's because Stannis didn't throw his name into the fire with the leech, because he's the ultimate decision maker within Westeros. If Stannis doesn't say Balon, Balon's not dead. If he doesn't say Robb, he's not dead when he throws the leeches in there. So in this scenario, right, he just doesn't say Robb's name. That's the reason why Robb doesn't die. Anyway,
sure,
right?
yeah, sure, whatever.
And Balon,
if that's really the thing controlling it, yeah.
That has to be the reason why, because Stannis has never done anything wrong, and if anything, he has the power of the lore on his side. So Stannis,
he's so high tea.
He says Balon twice or something, which then maybe would cause Balon to die twice. The only way Balon can die twice is if Beric Dondarrion resurrects him off the shores of the Iron Man's Bay when he washes up the shore after they give him the ultimate ice bucket challenge, and he comes back. Is he Azor Ahai at this point?
Is his sword flaming? Probably not. It's probably made of salt. What a pathetic... Balon's such a piece of shit. Nice salt sword, dude. Goes great with your salt throne. You let us know in the comments whether or not Balon dies once or twice, or maybe even 3 times. If you can think of a third way he dies, let us know. But he's dead. He's absolutely dead.
Yeah, let's just assume Euron maybe gets to Balon first before Robb does, because I don't know if Robb really sends out ships, goes into their court like that, their home field advantage like that. I feel like Robb, if he wants to win this, is he goes, like we said, north, takes Smoke Caitlin, which is where some of the Greyjoys are located right now.
Yep.
And then also takes Winterfell and just kind of reestablishes his standing in the north.
Yeah, I think so too. Definitely. I think he does that. And so at this point, I know it's kind of skipping a little bit here, but at this point, Robb would still want Northern independence. He needs a moment in this where he realizes that Northern independence is impossible under another king. Like, no matter which king wins, it's going to be impossible to have Northern independence. And it's like Stannis, okay? Stannis is the most reasonable guy amongst all the 5 kings, and he was Ned's #1 draft pick. So if Robb doesn't see it as being possible for Northern independence with Stannis even on the throne, he might realize, like, all right, I know what needs to be done now. I have to actually take King's Landing and sit the Iron Throne, even though I don't want to be down in that hellhole at all. It might be the only way that I can secure Northern independence for myself. And maybe by doing that, the rest of the 7 kingdoms could have some success too, right? So what is the situation that you see Robb coming to that realization? I think like the best way, at least to introduce that idea, is to have Stannis still respond to Jon's plea from the Wall, right, to get reinforcements up there against the wildlings, because he's still going to send that letter. And then I think Robb, at this point, since he's up in the north, like having recently seized back his shit, and he's still in war mode, I think he would still go up and respond to the call as well. So now you have Robb and Stannis both up north, right? How do you see that interaction happening to where Robb makes this realization? Or does it even happen here? Maybe they just have a temporary alliance and then Robb realizes later.
Yeah, I think that might be the more realistic thing, is if Robb is able to go up there, because Robb gets this letter from Jon of like, we need support, these wildlings. And if he goes up there and he starts hearing about all this voodoo mama juju stuff beyond the wall, maybe Craster's keep, and he's like, dude, I got to see this for myself. But he's like, no, you can't. You can't, Robb. You can't go. You have to stay back here and help me defend. He's like, damn it. But yeah, no, I think Robb has to see that, like you said, there's no other way. Stannis wants him to bend the knee, and he must be hearing from the crowd behind him, which, just his supporters, who's the large amount of the volume of support is coming from Great John Umber, who's just like, King of the North! King of the... It's like, yo, chill. I think it's
just calm down.
I think it's the no chill factor on both sides. He has to pick a side. It's either I'm King of the North, which means I have to fight Stannis, and if I fight Stannis, I might as well just take it all. But at this point, right, this is like after he goes up to the north, fights whatever wildlings with Stannis, sees that there's this issue of, hey, well, I think before we even get into the whole, hey, I'm coming to the realization I need to take the Iron Throne, because like we said, Robb needs to have this realization for himself organically. I don't think at any point before this he wants the Iron Throne. Like you said, he wants Northern independence. But with the Riverlands so exposed by potentially forces from the Reach and Lannisters, he needs men. And if he can use these wildlings, just like how Stannis viewed it too, then he can use them for his advantage. And he has to get back down south, because he's basically, and I don't think we stated this, is he heads up north, he has to leave his boy, our boy, the Blackfish down there in River Run, being the Chad he is.
Dude.
He's going to hold it off as long as he can. But, we don't know how long that's going to be, and he needs to get back down there as soon as possible, start defending the neck so they don't go too far up north.
Dude, you really think the Lannisters or the Reach or, Hungry Hippo Tyrell or any of these guys, you think any of them are even going to approach the twins with the Blackfish just standing there with his elephant trunk flopped out in front of him, just staring down everybody? No one's going to mess them. And these 2 massive balls behind the elephant. It looks like the elephant's ears, honestly, but they're spheres instead of flat flaps.
He's got his wisdom teeth taken out. They're just swollen. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's like tonsillitis. Yeah, right. No, I don't know. I think the Blackfish, I do think he could hold that area decently, because what's happening right now down in King's... Well, we don't need to talk about that yet, I guess.
Hold on, but the Golden Path, though, is that like there's hopefully some chaos happening in King's Landing while he moves up north. So that's...
Well, right, I agree. Yeah, they're occupied, right? So the Riverlands are not in immediate danger at the time. Also, the Vale might be on his side at this point, too, so they can provide backup. Who knows what's going on with crazy-ass Lysa, right? Who has any idea?
We know what's going on with her. It's a lot of screaming.
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of lactation. But way up at the Wall, right? At the Wall, you said that the wildlings could support Robb. It's the Stannis-Robb dynamic is the part that I'm not sure of yet, because it's like, if Robb wants independence and Stannis is like, no, sorry, no way. Stannis is he's on the losing end of that conversation right now, because his forces are so depleted after the Battle of Blackwater. Right? They're so depleted. So I could see him maybe being like, all right, well, we'll see. Let's ally for now, and then we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And then during the battle at Castle Black, maybe Stannis really tries. Maybe he gets more into the action and tries to make himself seem like maybe a leader for the people or whatever. Because I don't want to pit these 2 against each other right now, but if the idea is to gather the wildling forces for one or the other or both, I feel like it's kind of going to be a competition up there at that time, right? Like, which one of these people is going to be the guy to lead the wildling forces? Because even if they do make a pact, Robb's not an idiot and Stannis isn't an idiot. They know that secretly down the line they're going to have to come to a head with each other. If one of them wants independence, the other one won't let them have it.
Yeah, and hopefully maybe Stannis at this point would just say like, hey, pull the whole Ned Stark thing. Like, we'll talk about Northern independence, next time next time we talk, like, something like that. Because
Yeah, right.
Stannis needs Robb. Robb really, he needs Stannis as well, but they just don't see eye to eye. So ideally, the golden path forward is Robb somehow makes a kind of uneasy alliance with Stannis that they'll kind of, hash it out maybe later, or they just see like the bigger, like, we just need the Lannisters off the Iron Throne and we'll talk about it later, whatever. But hopefully Robb, to be then eventually sitting in the Iron Throne, is he agrees to this and the momentum builds up so much, and then Stannis, dies in a blaze of glory, maybe fighting the Night King or something. At some point, the momentum for all the forces is so high that Robb can't stop this train, and he might as well just get in front of it and be the conductor, and that's why he takes the Iron Throne, right? I mean, big picture, that's what I'm thinking. Like, that's how he has to be there. Otherwise, he needs support from Stannis. Otherwise, he's going to be another enemy in front of him, and I don't think Robb can do that to head south with Stannis being an enemy, right?
Dude, imagine they team up, right? They this uneasy alliance. They're at each other's throats at first. They're like secretly not fully comfortable with each other, but they go down south and they have this long, grueling battle, fighting the Lannister forces, the Tyrells.
Yeah.
And throughout this campaign, they become just super bros, like in like a great anime, right?
Yeah.
Like these two bros that are just together, or like RRR, great Indian movie. Whoever hasn't seen it, go watch it. These two guys have the ultimate bromance. Maybe that's Robb and Stannis. And then at some point, they're at like some decisive battle, and maybe the Mountain, who is undead at this point, because I think the Purple Wedding still happens, and the Mountain is basically still mortally wounded by Oberyn Martell. And the undead Mountain is on the battlefield, and Stannis is face to face. He's the only man left, and Robb sees him in the distance, but he's injured or something too. He's like, no, Stannis. But then Stannis realizes he's all alone, right? And then he turns on his walkie or whatever, and he's like, hey, send Melisandre, my wife, and Shireen over here. And so they all show up. For some reason, the Mountain's waiting on all this. And Stannis takes that sweet sword of his, and he plunges it deep into the abdomen of all three of them in succession. Melisandre, the wife, Shireen. And when he pulls it out, it's shining bright, and the flames are fucking bright, dude. Finally, Azor Ahai awakens, and then he takes down the Mountain. But the Mountain, he takes him out too. It's a sad death, man. One took out the other. Wait, it's like Farewell, My Brother, right? It's like the Cargill twins, but with the Mountain and Stannis.
Well, spoiler alert for House of Dragon. I don't know anyone that.
Yeah, whoops.
Yeah, whoops. But why doesn't he take out the Night King at that point? And why is it the Mountain?
The Night King's way beyond the wall still. They're down south. They're fighting the war at this point. All right, fine. You know what? Nope. I'll amend it. He only does it to his wife. Yeah. He only does it to his wife. He gets the flaming sword. Azor Ahai is born.
Right.
He strikes the Mountain down. The Mountain strikes him down. But luckily, he didn't do it to the Red Woman. The Red Woman revives him. And now he's kind of like Beric, and he's like a revived version. And now his mind is awakened with divine purpose that he doesn't even need the throne anymore. He knows his true purpose is to defeat the Night King.
Dude, I mean, that would be awesome. But listen, as much as
it is awesome.
As much as I'm slipping in my seat here, creating a snail trail, talking to you right now, I don't know if Stannis goes down south to then go back up north. Like, I think he has to address everything up north at that point. I just don't see him fighting the Mount, even though I want him to. And I want Stannis to become Azor Ahai. Let us know down in the comments. Who do you really think is Azor Ahai? And if it's not Stannis, then why the fuck are you here?
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. He's the king. He's the king in the north. He's the Night King as well. He's Azor Ahai. He's everybody. Come on. He's
everybody. Well, actually, no, real quick, going back down south, just for a quick second here. We'll go back to Robb and Stannis. But the Cart Starks, they went to go find Jaime, right? Did they actually? Yep. Do you think they find him?
Yeah, I think they do, because Jaime is definitely not in prime shape. He's, even if he doesn't have his hand cut off yet, he's like dehydrated, he's starving, he's getting captured by people left and right. So I think so. One way or another, they're going to find him and they're going to kill him. And even if not, he loses his hand, he's not that big of an asset anyway. And even if they don't find him, I think that just the gesture that Robb gave them permission to go do it, it's not going to go over as well as if they successfully kill Jaime, but I think it would at least mend the relationship enough to have like a business partnership sort of thing. Regardless of if they kill him or not, I think they do kill him, but even if they don't, I think that the Cart Starks and the Starks are good to go. Yeah,
well, no one loves Jaime more than me. I love Jaime Lannister. We should have a video on Jaime.
Oh boy.
But I don't think he gets out of this alive. And I think even if he meets up with Roose Bolton, I don't think Roose is going to let him go either. I think Roose at that point sees the writing on the walls and says, hey, Robb just betrayed the Freys by marrying Jane Westerling and Talisa in the original timeline. He sees it like that. And he also is probably in communication with Tywin, and then he's like, okay, this is my opportunity. There's no better way than to do it like this, like let Jaime go and, make his play for the North. If Robb doubles down with Rosalind Frey and actually goes on there and he's heading back up north, then I think Roose has to, be loyal to the North, even though I think he's being a little stinker in the long run.
Oh, absolutely. Unlike Walder Frey, Roose Bolton is definitely wanting to betray. Like, actively, his desire is to betray the North. It's not like Walder Frey where he's kind of just looking for what's best for his house and, like, what would give him an advantage in, like, the situation down the road. The Boltons just don't like the Starks. That's like an ancient feud. It's an ancient rivalry. It's like the Blackwoods and the Brackens, right? It's the same kind of thing. These two guys are never going to see, or these two houses are never going to see fully eye to eye, and it's definitely more so on the Boltons than the Starks. But if the situation ever presents itself, he's not just going to randomly betray and risk losing his entire house. Like, they're all going to die. If he randomly betrays him when Robb's at his most powerful, which would arguably be in this situation, it's like, yeah, why the hell would he do it? He never will.
Yeah, and plus, the Boltons are basically genetically bred to hate Starks. They literally just fantasize about taking their skin off and wearing it like Hannibal Lecter around their houses. Oh, I want an 80s montage of them trying on different outfits, and it's just different filleted versions of Starks.
In front of the mirror?
Yeah.
So good. Even though, dude, come on. The Boltons, on this channel, we think the Boltons are Giga Chads compared to the Starks, but in this situation, yeah, we don't like talking. But when the betrayal aspect comes in, kind of depressing.
Another thing down there, because I think the big decision, like we said with Robb and Stannis up north, we have to figure that out just a little bit. But Arya is heading up north. She meets the Freys or, some Tully on her way up. I think Robb already's heading up north by the time she gets to the Twins. So where do you think Arya is going to be down there with the Hound? And I think the Hound goes his own way after he drops her off and gets maybe some reward. But do you think the Freys just take her in and just tell her to head back up north? Or maybe they send her down to Seaguard? Because Seaguard's just south of the Twins. So maybe that's where they send her to their mom to get the
like southwest. Yeah, I'd say that. I could easily see that happening. It also depends on, again, what's happening with the Vale. Like, I don't know what's happening with the Vale, but I could see some weird situation where Catilyn is in contact with Lysa, and for some reason Arya or somebody is sent over there. I don't know what happens with Littlefinger in that whole situation either. This might be like the first video we ever do where we don't say for sure that Littlefinger goes and takes over in the Vale. I'm not actually sure he does that in this situation. But before we even get there, what do you think happens with the Toad-friendly Kingdom of Westeros? Do you think Dorne comes into play yet or not yet?
I hope not, dude. No one hates Dorne more than me. I hate Dorne.
I hate Dorne.
Maybe you hate Dorne more than me, but
I think I might hate Dorne more than you. They're disgusting.
Yeah,
ethnic food.
It's mostly the TV show version too, because in the books they're a little more interesting. But yeah, in the TV show, just do not care for them at all. They just try to flex on everybody that because they have sex with everybody, that makes them better somehow. I don't know how that math.
We have chairs with wheels. Ooh, so cool.
Ooh, look at me. I don't think Dorne gets involved. I don't know. I think Dorne has their own plan at this point, right? And I'd rather go with like the book version because Doran is definitely pulling some strings. He has Trystane and Marcella. He has his Areola Martell doing her own, being a little stinker bingus with Marcella as well. But he has Quentin going over and trying to court at least Dany, and he maybe gets Areola to maybe get young Griff. I mean, that's like a big can of worms that I don't think ever comes into play with Robb this early on. So I think what, like we said, is maybe just going back up north, because Dorne has their own agenda, and it might come the same wave as Dany. I think Robb and Stannis definitely need to find a way to get the Vale involved. And it's just going to be so hard to get the Vale involved with crazy Lysa, or even worse, little stinker Littlefinger, because Littlefinger does not like Stannis. And the whole reason why he backed the Lannisters to take the Iron Throne, because he knew he would not get anywhere within the Red Keep if Stannis was sitting in the Iron Throne.
That's true. He doesn't like Stannis, but he loves, obviously, Catelyn. So I could see him like he does. That's like his obsession. Yeah. So the Robb thing, I could see him helping Robb on behalf of Catelyn. So if Littlefinger does end up doing the little kill and slip out of King's Landing and brings Sansa over to the Vale, not only does he have Sansa be like, "Hey, Robb, King in the North, like, I got you, man. Like, I smuggled this girl out just for you and Catelyn, and I'm going to help you now with the forces of the Vale because either because your sister supports you already, or because your sister had a little accident and fell out of the moon door, and now I'm in charge of everything." Either one of those situations, I think it'll be fine. Even from Catelyn's perspective, if Lysa mysteriously turns up dead, but Sansa is free to now return home, I think Catelyn basically considers that a wash. You know
Not
what
even
I
a
mean?
wash. That's an upgrade. I think Catilyn, when
Well,
she
it is,
speaks
yeah.
with Liza, she's like, she's batshit crazy. Something's going on with her. Maybe it's the altitude up here. Something's going on with my sister. She's crazy now.
Yeah, at least your son turned out okay. Oh, sweet Robin.
But we're gonna do how Sweet Robin could sit the Iron Throne. That video is gonna be amazing. But
Yes. Stay tuned.
So I think that's the golden path forward somehow is because Catelyn's still alive, Littlefinger's tempted to go back to the north quicker than he probably would want to. Do you think his littler finger is driving his motivations more than his big little finger on his shoulders?
I think it is. But see, that's so weird to think about. Like, is there a chance? This is not really related to the video, but like, is there a chance that Littlefinger could like bag Catelyn somehow?
Say
like,
bag.
is that possible? Were you want to say bag it too?
Yeah,
is it possible for that to happen?
I don't know. That's weird because if he has
He's
veil,
a lord. If he's a lord now, Catelyn's like, ooh, Lord Baelish.
I know, but what does Robb think at that point? I mean, like, okay, what would Robb do? He probably wouldn't do it, right? He probably wouldn't be like, I'm not gonna let my mother remarry this like disgusting tiny little man compared to my Giga Chad father, right? I mean, that how embarrassing. Your stepdad is just like, excuse me, well, I run brothels. It's like, oh, give me back my brain dead father who at least had an anvil.
Yeah, I was gonna
right?
say his real dad's like, hey, I seen that, Rob. I'll eat my Reese's Pieces by the beach. The snipe.
Enough eating Reese's Pieces. We're supposed to be executing people up here, and you know how we do it up here. Those who give the sentence, swing the sword.
Eyes wide, boys. Here it comes. Here I go. Take a whiff, boys. This is what the smell of gore and death. Get used to it up here.
Get closer. You want to be in the splash zone on this one. I don't think Robb wants to do it, but again, golden path, right? Robb has to allow Littlefinger, to get it in. And I think Catelyn, if Robb presents that to her, being like, listen, you screwed up. This is how you can make it up. I married some person I didn't want to marry. Looks like it's your turn, baby.
Yeah, dude, honestly, I mean, it's fair. Tick for tat, right? Like, why not? Who cares?
Right.
At the same time, too, if I was Robb, and it's hard to put myself in the perspective of actual Robb, but dude,
Quick, hold on. Try to do it.
All right. And I finished. Shit. But
I got to marry her now.
yeah, I got to marry Catelyn. I hate Catelyn so much, is the thing. So, me just watching the show, I would have no problem with her marrying Peter Baelish, because I don't care about what happens to her whatsoever. She's nothing but a pain in my ass. She's nothing but a pain in my ass. I don't know what happens with the veil. I just want to say that no matter what, they kind of become an ally of the North. I hate to say it, sort of, because it just seems so like, oh, like butterflies and rainbows, everybody holds hands and gets along. Well, but why wouldn't it happen?
Yeah, does everyone get along if Catelyn does not like the situation, if Robb doesn't like the situation? I think power-wise.
Why wouldn't they like it? That's the thing. Why wouldn't they like it?
I think Catelyn's kind of like, you're my brother, Littlefinger, Peter. You're supposed to be like a brother to me. I don't look at you as like a sexual being in any way. And plus, you probably are behind the death of my sister, which even though she's batshit crazy, it's still a little weird that, somehow you have my daughter, you killed my sister, and now I'm opening my legs for you. I mean, as much as I love that formula, I don't know if it equals out to success.
Right, like we could have sex, but I'm not going to marry you, Peter. I mean, listen, I honestly think there's a situation where that happens for sure. Think about what happened when they were kids. So? Remember she like made out with him like as a joke?
Oh,
like,
dude, yeah. Oh,
or whatever that was. Yeah. Like, you idiot.
Creating a serial killer.
You put your tongue down my throat for like 20 minutes and I let you and I moaned and I finished. It's like, okay.
It was a joke. Get over it. Yes, I let you finish. It's funny. Again, we're not going with what is the most likely to happen, but what is realistically possible for them and what would gain Robb the Iron Throne, right? So Robb would have to make a deal with Littlefinger, marry his mom, get Sansa back, get Arya back. Now, I'm sure even though it's like, oh, yeah, it's sunshine and rainbows and, they're not dead, but at least they're back home. They're probably scarred now. And now he has the Vale, Stannis, and the North on his side. And at least they have some manpower, right? And I guess the Riverlands, too. They at least have manpower to move south, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think that they're basically marching on Tywin and all them at this point. Testosterone Tywin and what I say, hungry Hippo Tyrell, right? That's Mace the Ace I'm talking about. I think definitely they have the power now. Like the United Reach and the Westerlands. I have a hard time believing that they can stand up to the North, the Vale, and the Riverlands, basically full power with Stannis there too, and potentially an entire wildling host. Like, those guys are crazy, man. They're like the Dothraki. Who knows what they're going to do? They're going to scalp you, right? So I have no idea what they're going to do against that force. I'm talking about, Tywin and Mace the Ace. I don't know how they can defend against it. At this point, I feel like Robb's only real obstacle now is, again, Stannis, because especially if they campaign together, even if Stannis' forces are much smaller at first, over the course of that campaign, I feel like it's going to equalize quite a bit, or even just depending on whose forces go where to get smaller houses to join along the way. I feel like it's going to be a pretty even split. What happens when it comes to a head? Obviously, I don't think that Stannis, as much as I want there to be a bromance between Robb and Stannis, and, Stannis is about to fight the mountain, and Robb says, no! And then Stannis looks back with a little cheeky grin. It's like, it's okay, my brother. I'm doing this for you. And then he goes and fights the mountain, and they both kill each other. That would be sweet, but I think really they're going to both hold to their guns until the last possible moment, and then something's going to have to happen.
Okay, well, here, let me put my cards on the table here and just give you a quick wet dream on top of this as well. Stannis kills Dany. That's the reason why he's Azor Ahai. He brings the end of the darkness, the long night.
Finally.
That would be my dream. Somehow, maybe his sword absorbs the fire. I'm trying to remember when Lord of the Rings, doesn't that happen? Is it Gandalf's sword that absorbs the fire or something? Oh, it was of the Balrog or something. I'm trying to remember the comment down below. When was in Lord of the Rings where the sword gets absorbed with fire? Also in this whole situation, the Iron Islands are going to be kind of probing and being little stinker bingai on the east coast, the west coast of the Sunset Sea, on the Reach within Lannisport, hopefully down in Old Town, even though, we love Old Town. We don't want too much damage happening down there. But at least the Greyjoys are going to be probing them down there. So potentially the Tyrell Lannister alliance is going to be getting hit by two directions, if not three, if Dorne doesn't step up somehow.
Right. I think Dorne eventually will probably step up too, even though they have Myrcella. I don't see Dorne having a real incentive in keeping the Lannisters alive for any reason. Either that or they just stay out. They might just, at best, for the Lannisters, I think they just sit out and don't do anything. But yeah, you're right. The Greyjoys are going to end up kind of raiding and pillaging the Reach like they do in the main series. I don't see why that would change. And they're going to reach out to the capital for support. And in this situation, it would still be like Joffrey and Cersei, because he is not going to die in any different way. I didn't think about this, but does anything change? Nothing would change down south, right? Given the change we've said so far in terms of, Tyrion going to trial and then being sentenced, and then Tyrion killing Tywin. That would all still happen, right? So they're Tywinless?
Yeah, they're Tywinless. Jaime's dead
rough.
Because Rickard Stark gets his pound of flesh and a little extra for daddy, if you know what I'm saying.
I do.
And I think Cersei's just there alone, but Jaime leaves, at least in the main book series. He leaves pretty soon, so we potentially have a Marjorie-led King's Landing for a little bit before Cersei brings the High Sparrow into the mix, and then has the Faith Militant within King's Landing there, causing more chaos in all of this.
Yeah,
and then
that just destabilizes. That doesn't even supply any power to them or anything like that. So yeah, they're totally screwed. Dude. They're fucked. So that's why I'm saying I don't think that they are really a factor at all. The Greyjoys might come into play later because Euron is still going to be a thing in control of the Iron Islands, and they're still going to have their same plan, like I say in every goddamn video, I swear to God, that he's sending, Victorian Greyjoy over to try to court Dany or whatever. And, that might be a difference here that, contrasting to a lot of our what if videos we've been doing recently, is a situation where logically Dany would be assassinated by whoever's in charge. Because if Robb takes the Iron Throne, which is what we're having him do here, he's not going to assassinate Dany. I do not see any world where he assassinates Dany.
No, I don't think he does. I don't know how, besides what we always say in these what ifs. And even though this is not a what if, this is the golden path, right? I don't think Stannis sends a shadow baby over there either, right? His main focus is all in Westeros for the time.
Well, yeah, it has to be right now. If he was sitting the Iron Throne and he just had time to kill, it's okay, yeah, I might as well plug Melisandre, tonight, and then I'll send a shadow baby over there to kill her tomorrow. But right now, yeah, there's no reason he would do it. Right now, we gotta figure this out, man. This is what decides it. The Lannisters are fucked. The Reach is fucked. The forces are decided. The two sides are decided. It's going to come down to Robb and Stannis. How in the world does Robb take it from Stannis? Or why, I guess, does he? He might have the forces just to do it. But how does he do it?
But where is Robb and Stannis at this point? Where are they? Like, you're just saying within the time they meet at the wall to potentially on the steps to the Iron Throne. At what point there do they decide, like, I need to be the king? Where Robb takes over, or at least Stannis dies, maybe?
Because it could happen in a lot of different ways. Like, if Stannis could die in the battlefield, of course, obviously, it could be that they lead a military campaign and Robb kind of just stays behind in the north to whatever, while Stannis treks down south, and then Stannis ends up at King's Landing, and then Robb realizes that he fucked up, and then now it's time to go decide that he needs to take the Iron Throne, and then it's another big secondary war campaign. But that seems like a huge pain in the ass. And if there's this tension in their temporary alliance to begin with, I doubt that Robb would allow Stannis to get all the way down there without him. So I think they got to be staying pretty close together, right? So it's like you said, on the steps of the Red Keep, pretty much. I feel like this kind of has to go down, not literally, but in that kind of scale.
Right. So here's my real quick how it could happen, and it sounds fanficky, but whatever. We can go down a different path too here in a second. But Robb is up at the wall. They go beyond the wall because they're going to try to hunt down the Night King or do something. Stannis, of course, goes with him because he's a badass and he's a Azor Ahai, and of course.
Yeah, one shot. Night King. It's not even a challenge.
Robb brings with him his Rosalind Frey beyond the wall. Rosalind Frey meets Craster, falls in love, says, I can't be with any other person other than this Giga Chad Craster. Robb is pissed.
But understanding.
Understandable, because Robb also feels his presence. And Robb then is able to go marry, and then he courts Dany somehow, gets her underneath his wing, and then that's how he's able to take the Iron Throne from Stannis. But I mean, that's super fanficky, and not so much the Dany thing, but the Craster thing. So I just want Craster being involved here somehow. But I do think most realistic way for this to happen is somehow Stannis dies up north fighting the Long Night, basically, or the threat beyond the wall, the Whites. And then Robb then goes, you know what, I'm taking up this cause. And maybe Melisandre, because she has some of the people behind her in Stannis' camp, she's just like, he's the true Prince that was promised, which, I mean, she better win on Robb, because if she gets Robb wrong, she gets, who's his name, gets Stannis wrong, then Robb wrong, it's like, damn, not working well.
Yeah, she just needs to go. So that's what you think. See, I could see that too.
I don't know.
It's so hard whenever we make videos speculating about the future. I understand that the show gave us this definite, what am I trying to say? Like the procedures that the White Walkers are going to go through, or the others, right, with the Night King. But the books are just so much more ambiguous, and we have no idea what their story is at all. Even if you want to go by the book or the show logic only, why do you think that Stannis and Robb would be going beyond the wall to try to take care of the Whites? Just because the wildlings themselves are trying to escape it, and so they're like, okay, if these guys are willing to basically risk extinction for their people, this threat is probably worth going to investigate, and then they do it. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Well, I think Jon tells Robb about the shit out there that he saw, and I think he believes Jon to a degree. He also gets a very persuasive argument from Melisandre's Bobs, and is like, oh, wow, these are great and perky. I agree, whatever you're saying. Because I'm sure he's a tit guy. Cringe. Another reason why not to like Robb Stark. But
absolutely.
So I think that's why he's bought in. Now, like you said, the way you get past the wall is not clear, and I think the way they do it in the TV show is stupid. Having the dragons won't even cross it in the books. They won't even cross the wall, let alone having all three, and then one gets killed and then brought over. So I don't think that's how it's going to happen.
I see your point then. Yeah, it's a lot easier just to send them over to deal with the threat. And you know what? Yeah, I think it is reasonable that he would go over there knowing the threat. And plus, he's still in control of Dragonstone, I think, at this point, technically. Or maybe not. I think Cersei may have sent over forces to try to recapture Dragonstone after the Battle of Blackwater. I don't remember the exact order of that. Let us know in the comments. But if not, or I guess even if so, at this point their forces are so great, they could easily just send what percentage of their fleet over to Dragonstone and mine the shit out of that dragon glass, because that's another that's a main component of it. They can't just go beyond the wall with conventional weaponry. Jon's not going to let that happen. So the dragon glass will be a component, and then Stannis unlocks his Azor Ahai self by plunging his sword deep inside whatever woman's available, yanks it out, he's got it, it's flaming, and he goes down fighting against the Night King instead of the Mountain. Yeah,
it's still that's assuming, like we said, that they go on an attack first, they get on the offensive, they go out there. Cool, yeah. I think Stannis should either die that way, but if for whatever reason, kind of like they do in the TV show and books, where Stannis immediately heads south, and I guess it's more the TV show, right? Because Jon heads south, he takes Winterfell, they team up with the Vale, and then they don't even fight the Night King until they go down to King's Landing, have a little kumbaya, or actually go beyond the wall first, then go down to King's Landing. They say, hey, the long night's coming, like, there's a big threat beyond the wall. Then they go back up north. So there's so much time being wasted there by the time the whites actually cross the wall. You're telling me, I guess it's unclear how much time is passing there. Because I'm trying to think, like, could Stannis and Robb, after they meet up and they bro out at the wall, like, dude, we actually could rule together. You have no hair. I have a lot of hair. We're perfect for each other.
Yeah.
That they head down south. They head down south and are able to take at least, like, Casterly Rock. And then, the Lannisters are looking awful. But I just don't know. I'm trying to think, like, what... I guess the Golden Path, I keep thinking, like, hey, what would be the most logical? But the Golden Path would be they go out, face the Night King before he gets too powerful. They have Azor Ahai, Stannis on his side. Stannis dies in a blaze of glory. Everyone remembers his name. Robb names his child Stannis.
Yes.
Stannis Stark.
Oh, dude, the instant tavern classic, just like Farewell, My Brothers. Ode to a Flaming Bald Man, or I Love You, Sir Long Flame the Shiny. Like some song like that. Beautiful.
Oh, yeah, it writes itself.
Yes.
So then he heads south. And now with everyone being, like, believing the hype, smelling themselves, thinking that their farts smell like, 100% pure dank.
They do.
Drip, swag, throw every sort of adjective in there.
Oh, dude.
They head south. What do you think? That has to be the path forward. The whole Dany thing, he just puts scorpions on the walls. End of story.
Okay, yeah, the Golden Path. You're right, by the way. That's just true. I mean, you have one scorpion, it's killing a dragon. Like, there's no chance. Yeah, the best path forward, the most satisfying path forward is Stannis achieving this amazing warrior's death against the actual threat. And by the way, too, if this was the situation, I would want to see, like, a full season on screen of this brutal, like, cruel, horror-esque campaign beyond the wall to, like, defeat the White Walkers, and then Stannis getting this amazing character arc where we learn all about his trials and tribulations and dark inner demons before he defeats this, super threat. And then Robb is basically the guy carrying on not only his father's legacy, but now Stannis' legacy too, as like this guy who's supposed to take the throne, because Stannis is the actual rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Like, there's no way to argue that at the beginning of Game of Thrones. So yeah, not only carrying on the legacy of his father, like to be king in the North, but also carrying on Stannis' legacy, and also his father's in that secondary way, because his father also thought that Stannis should be sitting on the throne. So, yeah, that's great. It's like, that's such an amazing thing. I just wish that, it just feels so fanficky because it's so cool. It's so cool and it's so perfect that it feels ridiculous. But yeah, otherwise, guys, I don't think there's a single way that Stannis and Robb could see eye to eye without killing each other, right? Like, it might come down to just Robb having to stab Stannis through the eye or something like that. To say, no, sorry, man, I want the North to be successful, and I'm not putting up with your shit. I have to sit the Iron Throne. This is the only way to do it. I love it, man. I love the Golden Path.
I also think there's another, like, within this Golden Path, there's another kind of direction, and we'll loop back into the, the main Golden Path, where somehow Rosalind dies during childbirth, gives birth to either a boy or girl, it doesn't matter. But then Stannis is like, okay, marry my daughter, Shireen, Robb, and become my heir. And then Stannis dies. Then it's like automatic that he would be the head over the the Baratheons and the Stormlanders there.
Right, true.
That's another way. Again, fanficky and a little creepy that Robb would be touching a little bit of that grayscale, which I'm sure he would do the King V thing and let her develop before he even attempts to court her.
Yeah, but then get in as soon as possible, right? Get in, get out, call it a day, go back to Winterfell, never talk about it again.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and smash that like button.
Or not, we don't care.